Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm Simone.
And I'm Nafis.
And this is I Was Thinking. We are back. We're actually back to our I already can't talk. Regularly scheduled program. Dear Lord, why? Why do I have such troubles talking? I don't like the English language. Anyway, we're doing something we haven't done in a very, very long time, which is a movie review.
Yay!
What was I gonna say? Damn it, Nafis, we haven't done this in so long. Help me.
It's okay, you got it.
Okay, we're switching it up a little bit, I guess, is what I was trying and struggling to say. Because when we usually do TV and movie reviews, we've been doing a lot of Korean shows, or have we done any animated movie? Me and Macy did Howl's Moving Castle a very long time ago, and I think that was it. And I think the only anime we ever did was Attack on Titans, which my brother also wants to know if you are interested in doing that again, but you need to catch up because I have no idea where you are.
I finished, Wait, your brother was the one who asked about it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because, the series finished, so he asked if we were interested of having him come back on and talk about either the last season or probably the last season specifically, because I know we only did season 1 when he was on here, but...
Mm-hmm. So, I finished season 3, and I think season 5 is the final one, right?
I
believe so, yeah, because they split it into 2 parts, something like that.
They split it at 3.
Oh, 3 parts.
Yeah, they dragged that out.
But here's the thing, though. Every time I watch Attack on Titan, I always have to start from the first season.
Why?
Because the first season is that good.
You don't need to, because if you keep doing that, you're never going to finish.
No, it's that good. So for example, no, I've been doing that, and I finish when I have the time. So if I was gonna watch season 2, I'll do season 1 and then I do season 2. And then when I started watching season 3, I did I skipped season 2 because I didn't really like it that much, but I did watch season 1 again. I don't know, it's my favorite season out of all of them, so just to refresh my memory about the lore and everything.
Well, we'll put a pen in that. I mean, you can also just go online and read summaries.
But
just keep that in the back of your head. But anyway, we are trying to do better and diversify our movies. So we're going to start out this new year of 2024 with an American movie from Netflix.
Yep. Came out December 8th, and it's called Leave the World Behind.
Of 2023.
Yes, of 2023. And I'm sure many of you have heard of it because we have some big people in it, like Julia Roberts, Mahershala Ali, Ethan Hawke, sorry if I'm butchering your name, and Kevin Bacon. So,
can I say something real quick before you keep going on?
Yeah.
I actually met Kevin Bacon.
You have?
Yeah, when I was interning back in New York back in 2016, him and his brother, I don't know if they still have it, but they have a band and they were guests. So their band obviously played on the show at the news station that I interned at back in 2016. Mm-hmm. He's very nice.
That's good. Because he was not nice in this movie.
Well, yes, but I'm just saying, as a person outside of, the celebrity, because I've met some people, and out of all of them, I can remember him the most. And I just remember he was very nice. He talked to everyone like human beings, from us, interns, to, the producers. Sometimes he would joke around and ask, if we needed anything. So, yeah, I like Kevin Bacon.
Good.
Just going to say that. He's actually a very nice guy.
That's always relieving to hear.
Yes, because some people, when you meet, you can tell the fame got to their head. Even people who aren't even that famous, people you're who are you? Be acting like they're all that. So
yeah. But anywho, so this is a 2023 American apocalyptic psychological thriller film. And so it was written and directed by Sam Ismail. Yeah, I think that's an Arabian last name. He's also the same person who was involved with Mr. Robot. So he also wrote for that series.
You know what? That's funny you said that, because there was a couple scenes, especially towards the end. Oh, we didn't put our disclaimer. Should I put the disclaimer now? Usually when we do movie reviews, if you haven't listened to us, or it's your first time listening to us, we spoil everything. So if you don't care about spoilers, you can continue listening to us. If you do, I would suggest you stop this now and go listen or not go listen, go watch the movie and then come back and listen to us. But now that you had said that, there were certain I can't talk. There were certain scenes, the way they were shot and like the camera frame. I was like, why does this remind me of Mr. Robot? I used to watch that show, but then I had stopped. I don't know if I forgot about it or I got bored because I watched it very young. But yeah, I think the scene where Ruth and Amanda are like in the shed looking for her daughter, and there are certain ways where like they weren't really in the foreground. I forgot all my names of specific shots, but like certain shots when they were having dialogue, I was staring at it and I'm like, all of a sudden I'm getting like Mr. Robot vibes. So that makes a lot of sense now that you said that.
Yeah. So yeah, he was the one responsible for that. And I guess this was released at a few theaters, but then it was like officially released on Netflix December 8th.
I've always heard of this being a Netflix original. I didn't know they had some theatrical releases.
Yeah, so apparently back in November they did, November 22nd. And I guess it received positive reviews. I mean, either way, they were going to release it, but
yeah,
that was just a thing. Which is interesting because I remember you saying that you heard mixed reviews about it. And I was like,
I did.
Oh my gosh, this was such a cool movie.
And you were raving about it. And I was like, okay.
I was like, this looks interesting. And now, well, I'll save my final thoughts to the end.
It was interesting. I will say that.
Yeah.
Was it a good interesting?
I agree. It was an interesting.
Yeah.
A one-time watch, let's say.
Unfortunately, I had to watch it twice.
Oh.
Because the first time I wasn't paying attention. So
yeah, because a lot of things would happen really quickly in there. So it's like you have to pay attention to the things.
We'll get into my thoughts later.
Yep. All right. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to go over the plot, and then Simone and I are just going to discuss different plot points that really stuck out to us. And then I guess in between all of that, we'll just express our thoughts and then a final rating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, out of 10 that we usually do, correct? Yes.
Yeah. All right, so let's get started. So this is set in New York, so you will see a lot of famous buildings and bridges and things like that. But the way the movie opens up is with really, really eerie background music. Like that was the first.
There's a lot of eerie background music throughout this movie.
That was the first thing that stood out to me. I'm like, okay, so now I'm expecting this to be a proper thriller because of the background music, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, it's talking about. We open up to the scene with Julia Roberts wanting to go on like this spontaneous family trip just so she can like bond with her family and have like a getaway vacation. And so she rents out this vacation home, kind of like an Airbnb type thing. And so, yeah, so that's what they were supposed to do. So she goes with her husband and her two kids, which are Clay, and the kids are Archie and Rose. Okay, so we see them going on their way there. The background music is supposed to make you feel anxious, like they aren't supposed to relax. And I guess that kind of like feeds into the watcher too, because they're expecting something to happen, but obviously nothing happens.
It was very anticlimactic throughout a lot. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I was ready for stuff to like pop out. And then like, I was like, oh, okay, well, that was disappointing. I usually don't like things popping out, but I'd rather have something popping out.
If it's a thriller?
Maybe it'd get me more. You know what? Just keep going. If maybe y'all can already tell the tone I have about this movie.
Yeah. All right. So they're on their way. They make it there to the house. They settle in and everything. Mom goes to get groceries and she notices that like people are stocking up on things, but she couldn't kind of like click why they were doing that. She just thought it was odd. It's like, okay. The daughter is on the beach. They're all on the beach just enjoying their time when they see like a big ship coming their way, landing onto shore eventually. And so there was like a lot of chaos with that too, because it's so random. It's like a pretty big ship too. Yeah, they
said it was an oil tank type ship,
yes,
right?
Yes, it was an oil tank type ship. And so when they asked about it, one of the people that worked there said it had something to do with like the military program or whatever. So they come back home after that whole fiasco and they realize that the Wi-Fi and the TV were not working.
Well, just to give a hint at the very beginning, we kind of get that like indication. I caught this on my second watch because when Rose is watching her iPad on Friends, when they get closer to the house, it stops working. So that's kind of supposed to be like the first indicator, like something is going to go wrong. You know, when they're in the car talking about the vacation home, when Julia Roberts is talking to whoever, I don't know if it was her sister or her friend, and it shows them all doing something. Clay is driving. Archie is playing some like violent video game on his phone, and Rose is watching Friends, which is important because she really likes the show Friends. And while she's watching it, it stops. Yeah. Because of the internet.
Okay.
I guess you didn't catch. I guess you didn't catch that. So
I didn't catch that.
That I do remember, especially on my second watch. So like that's supposed to be the first indicator, like at least from her view, like oh, maybe this is going to be an area where like the internet's spotty or something. But yeah.
So that was like while all of that was happening, they were trying to figure out the Wi-Fi situation. They noticed like there was a pair of deer just staring at them, like full on staring, like no turning around, looking away. Which I thought was like really, really weird and very random because typically, I don't think deer are like confrontational animals, right?
Not unless you provoke them. But I mean, I've had deer in like places like that I've lived, and if they sense you, they do stare at you like that. But like they'll usually never. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Actually, it depends. They're not confrontational, so they won't like come and attack you or anything, but there are certain types of deers, especially those deers, where like they're used to being in parts of woods that have civilization like humans around it. So as long as they don't think you're going to attack them, then they'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
And I understood what Clay said about deer. I guess seeing them is like a good luck thing, because I remember before we moved to our apartment, I saw some deer in the backyard, and like they knew I was there, and then I came a little bit closer, but like I didn't mess with them. They didn't mess with me. It's like, cool, you're pretty. Go on about your grazing.
Yeah, so that happened, which was like within like the first 10, 15 minutes or so. All right, so right after that, that same night, the owner of the house, I'm going to just call it an Airbnb.
That's fine. That's what it basically is.
Yeah, known as George Scott, which is also Mahershala Ali, and his daughter, Ruth, they arrive at the house. So essentially they come back because they are trying to seek shelter because they saw that the blackout already made its way into the city and they just didn't want to get caught up in the middle of that. So they decided to return back to their house. Julia Roberts, so her character in this story is like she's very suspicious. She doesn't like people. Because in her actual job, she does like human relations.
Okay, because I didn't actually know what her job was. I knew she always talked about like something about selling people things or.
Yeah, she was like a liaison. Do you know what that is?
No.
The middleman, basically.
Okay.
So she's always trying to like make sure both parties are like happy. A broker, I guess you could call that.
But I'm assuming she deals with like higher people the way she talks.
Yeah, she deals with like higher level people.
Okay.
But it's still like the same at its core, you know, just like dealing with people.
Yeah.
And so it's like she's so she does not like people, and she makes that very, very clear. So yeah, the owner and his daughter, they come back. They want to seek shelter because of the blackout. Amanda was like, this is so weird and it's so random because normally you don't do that. And if the owner does end up staying, they would say it on like the listing, but that was not the case. And so the husband, Clay, was like, yeah, why don't we let them stay? They seem like friendly folk. And you know, but when he said that, I was like, this guy is going to die in a apocalypse. My gosh, I can't talk today.
Listen, I understood her hesitation, especially not having Wi-Fi to look anything up. However, it came off as a little bit microaggressive to me. I'ma just say it, because there was one specific.
Okay, so you said microaggressive. Like, who came off microaggressive?
Amanda, the way she was talking to them. Because there was one specific part where before they decided to let them stay, I mean, besides being like, we don't know if this is your house and all that, she's like, I just don't feel comfortable staying with. And then she pauses for a really long time. And then she says, strangers I don't know. I was like, no, Amanda. What was you about to say? Were you about to say you don't feel comfortable staying with Black people? That's what it was giving me. I'm sorry. Okay, I've been around those type of people and I was just like, this is...
Yeah.
Because what if they weren't Black and two other like white people or like lighter skinned people of color showed up and be like, hey, we're the owners of this house, and, you know, explain the circumstance? Would she be as suspicious? Suspicious, yes. But as suspicious as she was,
probably not.
That was giving a lot of microaggression to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It was. I have to be honest. And that part pissed me off so badly.
But to be fair, though, well, no, not to be fair, but to, I guess, kind of counteract like her microaggression, the daughter, Ruth, she also came off very strong.
I mean, I don't blame her, though, because the way she was feeling attacked.
Yeah. Because she kept saying, it's our house, because it's our house.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but girl, they technically rented it from you.
She was only responding like that from the way Amanda was, antagonizing them. When she would say something, she was like, again, I get it, especially with them not having any IDs or anything like that, but it bothered me. It was too much. And I was sitting here thinking, like, if it was anyone else.
It was so funny. Like, when she asked for an ID, and he was like, you would not believe. He's like, I left it in my jacket coat or something at the whatever gala they were at.
But, like, also, if they drove there, why couldn't he just get out his registration from the car?
That's actually a really good point. I didn't even think about that. No, they didn't drive there. No, they did. They did
drive there.
Yeah. But the excuse that they used to come there was also really trippy. Because he had hurt, remember, so I guess he said that he had hurt his leg and like he didn't want to go back to his apartment because of some stairs.
Yeah, it was 14 flights. I mean, the elevator is not working if there's a blackout, so I wouldn't want to climb 14 flights either.
But I don't think at this point, did he tell them about the blackout?
Yeah, they did. That was the first thing they mentioned to them.
Oh, okay.
When they were in the kitchen. They had mentioned there was a huge, citywide blackout, and it was closer for them to go to the house than their apartment, not only because of, the electricity's out, so they didn't want to climb up the stairs because of his bad knee, which, I mean, honestly, I feel like that's valid. Maybe that's just me. But also, there's no traffic lights working, so they don't want to be stuck in that traffic. It was just easier for them to get there because they knew the roads.
Yeah. Yeah, in that context, I guess that would make more sense.
I'm just saying, it was very micro. I understand her hesitation. Yeah. And the way she tried to accuse him of, trigger warning, of, what if he sexually assaults her daughter? I was
my gosh,
what is happening? That's where I was like, this is very microaggressive to me.
No, I thought she crossed the line. Well, I understand as a mother why she would be concerned, but at the same time, the man is there with his daughter, with
his own daughter.
Yeah. But see, remember, this is coming from the standpoint from a very, very skeptical woman.
Again, I know, I understand. Again, I am just saying.
But I also
whole scene could have been handled a lot better.
But she also didn't have to bring up her kids. You know what I mean? They're sleeping upstairs, blah blah blah. That was not unnecessary. The husband, on the other hand, was just so relaxed. He's like, they seem like friendly people.
I'm glad you're not thinking about Archie either. What if he, goes into Archie's room or anything? So it was just a mess. Could have been handled a lot better.
Yeah. So after that fiasco, eventually, they came to some sort of agreement. So he actually... Oh, this was kind of important. So when they first came into the house, they had this wine cabinet or alcohol cabinet, and it was locked. And so I guess what really convinced them was the fact that he was able to come in and unlock it.
I mean, that would have convinced me.
Right.
But then she tried to use an excuse. What if they're housekeeping?
Oh, yes, you're right.
I don't think housekeeping would have... No, I don't think housekeeping would have access to a liquor cabinet like that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Especially if there's $1,000 in a drawer and a gun.
And a gun, yeah.
Why would you trust housekeeping with that?
Yeah, so from the same wine cabinet, there was a gun and then some money. So he pulled out $1,000 and basically paid them to stay in their own house.
Yeah, because for an inconvenience thing, for I'll give you this for now, and then when everything's back up, to give you half the money, you paid for, since we're staying here.
That, and plus they stayed in the basement of their own home. So it made sense for that first night why they did that.
That scene, I think, out of the whole movie pissed me off. However, before you also continue to move on, we discussed this earlier, but did you already mention that this is based off a book?
Oh, I did not. Yes, this is based off of a book.
Yes, because I had taken a picture of the synapse of the book on Amazon, and it's interesting because in the movie version, they had changed it. So GH and Ruth in the book apparently are an older couple. Now, it doesn't say what race or anything, but it says they're a couple. And they changed it in the movie for them being father and daughter.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, I don't know how it's in the book, but it seems like everything is the same except for that. Because another well, you'll get into it later. There's a big like plot of like them being father and daughter and all that, and worrying about the mother. But in the book, they're apparently supposed to be a couple. So I don't know how that works in the book.
Well, I mean, they did have to change some things to make it fit the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's where we're at. So the next morning, they still have a Wi-Fi issue. Rose is frustrated, or Julia Roberts is frustrated that the Wi-Fi and TV are still not working. And so, like, yeah, they tried to check messages, couldn't do it. Tried to watch Friends, couldn't do Rose tried to watch Friends, couldn't do it. Like, she's like literally so obsessed with that show. It's kind of funny.
Also, should she be watching Friends at 13?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but that's what it was. But if something very interesting happened. So when Julia Roberts, or Amanda, she wakes up in the morning, she notices that she got like news alerts, like 4 news alerts about like what's been going on with the blackout and everything. And like one of them was about like hackers taking over networks and sending out corrupt messages. And so that happened, and then as soon as she tried to like actually view the messages, like they disappeared, like they were completely gone and she couldn't access them. And she was back to having no data, no Wi-Fi, no internet or anything like that. But at the same time, Rose is out and she sees a very large herd of deer in her backyard. And it's so interesting because like deer are like constantly popping up in the show, in like the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're supposed to symbolize, so...
Right, me neither. And I tried to like think about it and look it up, and it was like interesting.
What did it say when you looked it up?
Well, I tried to look it up. I didn't see anything.
Oh, you didn't get anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so deer kind of kept coming up all the time. The daughter, Ruth, and her father, they wake up. They have like a conversation asking if everything is okay. I guess at this point we kind of see that Ruth is like just like any other teenage girl. She's kind of worried about like what's going on. So the main issue with them is like their mom is like overseas for like a meeting. And so she was supposed to be on her way back in that morning. Actually, she was supposed to be on her way back that morning on a flight to New York. And so they haven't heard from her or anything. And so like at this point, she was just, worried at this point. But the dad said, no, everything will be fine. We can't really say anything until we know more. And we also find out that the dad also has a very important job where he kind of works with big people as well that can make things happen.
I mean, you would have to assume with a house like that.
Yeah. This house is a very nice house, honestly.
It's got to have money from somewhere.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, yep. So they attempt to learn about the disruptions. They try to fix the Wi-Fi. Clay, the husband, he drives into town while George goes to like a neighbor's house to figure out what's going on. And both have like their own adventure while they go there. And so Clay, he runs into like the Spanish speaking lady. And at this point, remember, we still have that really creepy and eerie background music going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just really intensifies like what is supposed to happen. So it's like a blank, like really deserted road. He sees a Spanish speaking lady and he stops, knowing how he is. He stops and he asks her like what's going on. But like she just kept yelling at him in Spanish. And I guess that kind of terrified him. And he just like rolled up his window and he just drove away. As he was driving away, there was a drone that was dropping off like leaflets that were written in Arabic at the same.
Triggered also because of what we're going through.
Triggered me like crazy.
Saying.
I'm like, oh my god, this better not be one of those like Arabic people are terrorists movie.
I was so afraid this was turning so Islamophobic so quickly.
Yes.
I was literally like, do I need to shut this off? Because this is getting very Islamophobic, but I'm going to say this now. I forgot the Obamas helped produce it, so makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and especially when he brings it back home, when he comes home, and then the kid reads it off from a video game like Death to America. I'm like, what am I watching?
I know. I like honestly,
really?
when I reached that point in the movie, I was like so pissed off. I'm like, I'm gonna continue this.
I was ready to turn it off.
I'm gonna continue this because I can talk about it on the podcast. But like at that time, I'm like, this better not be one of those like you said, Islamophobic shows or movies. Because like, what are you doing? And the fact that it came out in December And the fact that it came out in
That's
December.
What I'm saying. Like, so the timing.
Yes.
Especially with everything that's going on, and the drone part with the leaflets. Leaflets triggered me because we know what's happening over in Gaza. That's how they were telling the Palestinian people to leave before they bomb them, which they still end up doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, okay, I don't know if I want to continue this.
Yeah. So that's what happened with that. But at the same time,
remember when I was telling you, I don't remember if I ever talked about it on the podcast. You got to be careful because, especially with everything that's going on now, I've been coming to the realization how propaganda a lot of movies are when it comes to the military, when it comes to Islamophobic, like treating. I'm trying to stop saying Middle East. I forget the proper term for that region. It's not supposed to be Middle East. It's something Asia, like Western Asia or something like that, but still. Just be careful, y'all, because once you start looking for it, you will pick up. And the perfect one, too, is even though I stopped watching these type of movies, but like, just look at any Marvel movie, to be honest.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot in there. And I didn't realize how much tied, like, entertainment is with the military because they'll go to some, like, military bases to film some shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just, yeah. And I think that's also why I had to watch this a second time, because after that part, I had tuned out the movie because I think I was so irritated.
Yeah. No, I was like, I'm only watching this once and that's it. Like, it is what it is at that point.
Yeah. I'm upset I had to watch it a second time, but like I said, and that was only like halfway in. And this movie is long. So I missed about an hour and a half.
Yeah. No, it's about an hour and a half, which is actually kind of short if you think about it.
It is 2 hours and 30 minutes. No, this movie is 2 hours and 30 minutes. It did not have to be that long.
Is it really? Oh,
yes. Yeah. This is a long ass movie. It was not worth the 2 hours and 30 minutes. They could have shortened it.
They could have. But yeah, so while the drone was dropping its leaflets written in Arabic, George, the owner of the house, he goes to a neighbor's home to see what's actually going on because they might know more. So he goes to the house, he finds like a radio phone that he tries to use, but he couldn't use it. So when he goes outside, he notices like there's trash and debris everywhere. And he also notices the wreckage of a plane crash on a nearby beach.
Yeah.
And at that time, while he was trying to do his thing, trying to gather information, he like very, very, very narrowly escapes the second one. So he sees like another plane coming in and he sees it coming his way and like basically towards that beach. And so he just moves out of the way. And so he like almost avoids the second one.
Which I'm trying to think if realistically he would actually survive that or not. That plane was way too close.
That was way too close.
Even the house.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have taken down not just the windows, but the whole house.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Again, movie magic, but he should have died from that impact.
Yeah.
Not from the plane hitting him, but just from the water and everything. Like, I don't know. That didn't seem too realistic to me, but maybe I could be proven wrong, but I hope to never be in that situation to be proven wrong.
Me too. Because I like throughout the movie, I was just thinking, I'm like, oh my God, if I was ever in this situation, I would just be like, just take me now. Just save the energy.
I understand at the beginning with them in the beach in the boat, that to me was more realistic to escape from and survive than the airplane one at the lake.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
But yeah, so around the same time, so Rose and Archie, they there's the woods behind the house, so they go to kind of explore the area. So when they explore, they come across an empty shed. Okay, so while they were exploring, Archie was bit by a tick on his ankle, and so on his way back, he kind of removed it, and they were just and so he was bleeding and everything on his way back. And so coming back to the house, George basically
also when they were at the shed, they saw a house across I guess one of the windows, because that's important too.
Oh yes, they do see a house through the tiny window, which becomes relevant later. Yeah. And so, they come back. He's bleeding from the tick. But before that, George comes back home. He tells Amanda, Julia Roberts, everything that he witnessed. And he has this theory that it's a national-wide blackout. It's not just New York. It's nationwide. And the thing that convinced him is, like I said,
is on your side. Sorry.
And the thing that convinced him was like, you know how we were talking about that like radioactive, that satellite phone. So that satellite phone was not working because regardless of like data and internet or whatnot, if the satellites are in orbit, that phone should work regardless of where they are. But because it didn't work, that means that their satellites were taken down or hacked or whatever, which means that this is not just a New York problem. This is like an America problem at this point.
Only America or like the world? Only America because those satellites are American?
Probably. That's what I was thinking at this point. Yeah. And so
no, you're probably right. You're probably right. I was just asking.
Yeah, and so at that point, like Julia Roberts was like, she thought back to the man that she saw like stocking things up, and she's like, oh, well, that makes more sense because he probably knew what was going on. So she tells George this, and he was like, oh, that's probably Danny, like our neighbor, and like he does contract work with him, and so yeah, so he assumed that to be the contractor that worked with him. In the meantime, Clay comes back with the leaflet and he's just like terrified and he's like, I don't even know how I came home. I just kept on driving. It's a miracle that he even came back. And so, yeah, he shows everybody the leaflet that he got. And like you said, because of the games that he played, the video games, it says death to America. So at that time, the family, they're just like, okay, this is more than enough. So they try to leave the Airbnb. And so they actually end up attempting to go to New Jersey, which is where her sister lives. Julia Roberts' sister lives. So they try to go. They actually left, but they end up running into traffic on their way there. And so when they were in traffic, they noticed that it was just a whole bunch of Teslas.
Yeah, I don't know if I would consider it traffic. It was more of just like a blockade because I think they could already tell like all the cars had hit each other, but they couldn't tell why.
Yeah. So they like even got out of the car just to see like what's going on. And then like, see, the thing is like, even though she hates humans, she's actually very, very smart. So I'm glad she used her senses in that case.
Just because you hate humans doesn't mean you're dumb.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. Anywho. But yeah.
Wait, what?
She's the smarter one of the two. Like between her and her husband, like she's the smarter one.
Okay, I was trying to understand this logic because I never heard of this before.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think no, because people that tend to be more, from what I've noticed, more recluse are more also perceptive of like the things around them because they're not busy trying to people please. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, because I'm like that. So that's what I was trying to say. What are you saying about me?
Yeah, so that's kind of what I meant because like she would notice things that he just never picked up on, right? So for example, like he was just still busy trying to talk to somebody while she like saw a whole bunch of other Teslas on their way towards them. So essentially what they discovered is that there was nobody in those Teslas. They're just self-driven.
Which I didn't know Teslas were self-driving now.
Me neither.
But I try to stay away from Teslas and everything Elon Musk, period. But even though I'm still on X/Twitter, but yeah, I didn't know. But then again, why would I get a Tesla? I don't even hear they're good cars anyway. So I'm just saying, allegedly.
Well, I wouldn't get a Tesla because it's basically a data company and I'm not okay with my information being out and about, like where I go.
I mean, you have already had incidents twice, right? So I understand.
Where I go, where I stop, how long I stay. Like, you are a car company. Why do you need to know all that? I mean, I guess...
Girl, they be stealing our data and our information. Nothing's private.
I feel like at this point in America, I think everybody's data has been stolen at least once. There's like no anonymous person.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah. Because all those random spam emails that you get in your email or those spam calls, that's data that was sold by some company.
Yeah.
Or hacked.
You're not lying, so...
Where did we stop? Oh, yes. Self-driving Teslas.
The Teslas. We find out, they're self-driving and for some reason. And also, where are they coming from?
Right.
We never got an answer where they're coming from. Is there like a Tesla plant or factory around them? Like,
Probably.
I was confused.
They were all white.
Yeah. That's why I was like, it's all the same make and model. I mean, I know rich people usually tend to the same trends, but not for that many Teslas. There had to have been like some type of factory nearby or something.
Possibly.
I don't know New York like that, so...
What kind of freaked me out about that whole entire scene is this self-driving part of it, because that was hacked.
Yeah.
Like somebody was able to hack that car and make it drive.
Yeah.
Like I don't think people realize how terrifying that is. Like you could just be on your way to work and it can just turn off.
Driving's already dangerous enough.
It's so dangerous. And like after that scene, I was like, this is why I'm going to stick with gas cars.
Even though gas cars are also ruining to the environment. But anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just no winning in this economical transportation war, I guess. Whatever. I don't know. Yeah, so that's where we're at. Self-driving cars. I just like that scene particularly just like kind of stuck in my head because it's like, yeah, the amount of damage that can be done if you know what you're doing and like how to hack that car, which I'm pretty sure there is like layers and layers and layers of security. But for those who are like really, really good and somehow manage to get it done, that's scary. And
I mean, because that brings me to a couple TikToks I've seen recently, like randomly about people having self-driving Ubers to take them to like airports.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, thank you.
I don't know, man. I just don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's what happened. So they all come back home, and then like throughout the night, so Ruth asks Clay. So Ruth and Clay kind of hang out by the pool, which I thought was really weird. Which, by the way, I don't think I talked about his job. He's like a professor at a college.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. And she's also in college. So I just found that whole interaction weird. I thought he was going to do something very sleazy. Thankfully, he did not.
I mean, he wasn't giving me that vibes, but...
He wasn't, but like at the same time, it's possible because that's how American movies do things. They make people sleazy.
I get it.
Or like inappropriate and perverted.
I mean, she did also ask him. She asked him if he was that type of professor, so...
Yeah, she was very open about it. Yeah, so she does ask him like provocative questions. And while they're talking, they later discover like flamingos in the pool, which is also completely random. During that time, Julia Roberts and George, they kind of go down to like the little library area. They start bonding, surprisingly.
Yeah, after all that shit you said at the beginning, and now you like the man. Okay. Don't give me that fake bullshit.
Okay, that scene pissed me off so much. Like, I have a very huge issue with George Mahershala Ali, with his character. Like, my dude, which, by the way, I don't think I mentioned this, they're still in the basement of their own house, even though the family had left. So the family left and they came back. And then all of that extra stuff happened.
Listen, like I said, a lot of little microaggressions. I noticed how they had to give up their own space for the family.
Which, by the way, the daughter even brought up. She's like, why are we still living in the basement of our own house when they're the ones that left?
Exactly.
Anyway, I just felt like he was being way too nice. Same thing here, is being way too nice. So, like, they eventually bond. And then they dance. They put a freaking record on and they dance. And like they have a...
I was just confused. Like...
And then they hug. Like, what?
I mean, weren't they also drunk though off of wine?
I'm sure they were, but like, why? It's like... I was like, please don't make this a story about cheating. Come on. The husband's right there.
I mean, I didn't think he would have done that. Especially, he seemed to have just been missing his wife. That's why I was like, I'm pretty sure they were drunk.
Yeah.
Glad they didn't make him kiss or anything.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess they were just bonding.
At least she did come around and she was like reassuring in a way. It's like, yeah, we'll take care of Ruth and you, and just reassure him about like their whole situation. Because remember...
But why do they need to take care of them when they are in their house? That's not their house.
Right. Right, exactly.
Man, let me be nice.
Yeah, so that happens. They're bonding, and then suddenly they're cutting off their bond by a really, really, really high-pitched shrilling noise. And then
Which bothered me, because that even bothered me watching it, so...
What?
The noise.
Oh, yeah. So the noise came on and then the power like basically failed. So like they have no electricity at this point. So first they didn't have like internet, data. Now they just don't have electricity. And so that's where they're at. And so I guess everybody just goes to bed. And so like the whole family's in one bed. And so Rose tells Julia Roberts or like Amanda, a story from The West Wing, which is like an episode called The West Wing, which is where God...
From Friends or a different show?
This is a different show. Yeah.
Okay, don't be... I don't be paying attention to a lot of those shows, especially if they're from the 90s and early 2000s. I was a child and I didn't care to go and rewatch them.
Yeah, so the show is called The West Wing, and she's talking about an episode from it where God attempts to save a man from a flood with several warnings and escape opportunity. At this point, though, like the mom, like Julia Roberts, she's like so freaked out. She's like, why is a 13-year-old telling me like she was so confused, like why Rose was the one saying all of that.
Rose is a very odd child.
Yeah, she was a very odd child. And I guess it was like foreshadowing, I guess, what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next morning, this is when things get really weird.
Which also, can I say something?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess this goes into my whole thing I talked about like last year about like child labor. Do you know the actress is actually 18, playing a 13-year-old?
Yeah.
Which I was like, at first, but then I was like, I don't hate it really. Well, I had to actually sit there and think about it because again, my issue about like child stars in general. So I was like, I just never would have thought that though until I looked her up. Maybe because I was going to say maybe because she's tiny, but her Google thing said 5'6". I don't know.
I honestly thought she was 13 years old.
You know what? Maybe we should start doing this more.
Yeah, I thought she was 13.
Yeah, but then that also goes into like, I'm tired of seeing like, you know what? Never mind. I just felt like bringing that up, but let's continue before I go on a rant or a ramble.
Okay. Where were we? Yeah, so that's what happened. The next morning, Archie is just a problematic kid as far as like health concerns. So his teeth fall off.
That part freaked me out. That part I did get squeamish, especially like, I don't know if it's due to stress or something, but like, have you ever had those dreams where like your teeth all of a sudden fall out? That's linked to something, I believe, psychologically, I remember hearing about. But yeah, I've had those dreams before. So when I saw that, I was like, nope, I am not watching. Because I used to have that a lot.
Really? I don't think I've had a dream like that, but I've heard of that being a thing.
I did. Yeah. Like, I would just, you touch your mouth and all of a sudden, like a dream, like your teeth all come out. So it's like, that freaked me out a lot.
Yeah, like when I saw that scene, I'm like, okay, this poor boy. And I think that's what really did it because they weren't like trying to go out of the house at that point because like everything was shut down and they were just like, let's just stay put. But him losing his teeth was like really did it. And they think that the reason that happened was because of the tick bite that he got from when him and his sister were like exploring the woods. And so George is like, okay, well, we can probably go visit Danny because if there's anyone that is prepared, it is most likely him. And so they head out for that. In the meantime, they realize that Rose is actually missing because I don't know what happened. She went on exploring the woods. And so the girls, so Julia Roberts and Ruth, they go to search for Rose. George and Clay, they take Archie to visit Danny. Okay. And so eventually they end up at the shed, both Julia Roberts and Ruth. And
I like how you know Julia Roberts is the only one you mentioned. I said I like how Julia Roberts is the only one you mentioned by real name. Everyone else is their character. Yeah. But not Julia Roberts.
I could just call her Amanda, I guess. Too late for that.
I mean, you've been doing it. We're almost done, so just keep doing it.
Right. Where was I? Yeah, so both of them are at the shed, and they are eventually confronted by first of all, they talk it out. The thing with them is that, like, Ruth is very straightforward about her feelings. Like, if she does not understand something, she'll question it. And so I guess her and Julia Roberts, they talk it out. Like, they try to understand each other. They come to some sort of agreement, more or less. But after all of that, they are eventually surrounded by a really, really large herd of deer, which they eventually scare away. In the meantime, they make it to Danny's house in order to get help for Archie, but Danny was like so standoffish. It was like kind of shocking, really, because the way George talked about him made it seem like that they were friends. But when they came to the house, he had like his shotgun out and everything. His daughter was actually who first like saw them and then called him over, and he like opened the door with his shotgun. And I'm like, oh my God, there are no friends in times of war, possibly.
I mean, there never is.
And I was like, wow, this is what they want, to turn on each other. But anyway, yeah, he took it so seriously. He's like, look, I don't know what's going on. We could possibly be at the brink of a war. There's talk that this could lead to a civil war and things like that. And so they really, really tried to get Archie the help, but like Danny was just like, no, I can't help you. Be on your way. Mind your own business. Whether I have things or not that could help you, that's for me and my family. It's not for you. And so like in the meantime, George is just he's like so shocked. Like I don't think he even recognized who the person in front of him was.
It didn't seem like
because
it.
He was like, this boy needs help. His teeth are falling out. He needs help. And they kind of get into an argument about it. Eventually, Clay, the father, had to like get in the middle of it. And then he like basically pleaded with Danny to get him antibiotics. And so eventually he got the medicine that he needed. But like that whole scene though really, really rubbed me the wrong way.
How so?
I don't want to make things about race, but do you think he was convinced because it was Clay that was the one asking?
You said it, not me.
Okay, because I'm just
I've been making this about race, so I can see that. But at the same time, if they were supposed to be neighbors, but I didn't think George really painted him in like a nice light, because the way he would talk about Danny to Amanda, it did seem like he's always been that way, and it was just more paranoia when all this was happening. So I wasn't shocked that he acted that way, because even when he was describing like what Danny looked like, when Amanda was saying how there was some, guy at the store stocking up on water and stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't know, maybe that's just me. And it didn't seem like they were the friendly neighbor type. Maybe like if one of them needed help with something, yeah, but it didn't seem like they were friends.
I don't know. I got the vibe that they were at least cordial to each other, because he's like, oh, he did contract work for me, like it made it seem like they were on good terms.
Just because you're cordial don't mean you're friends.
Well, I think George misunderstood that as friendship. Because he did go to him for help. Like, you wouldn't go to somebody for help if you didn't think they'd help you,
Not in times of dire need.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It was just interesting. And Archie's like in the car just watching all of this happen. It's like,
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm glad he got the help he needed. But so after that,
I do think it was more because they didn't understand what was going on, and he wanted to make sure that they weren't there to like maybe steal something. I don't know. For me, and I'm surprised I'm saying this, I did see it more as like a paranoia thing of not knowing what's happening than like a race thing, which is shocking, but
I saw it as a mix of both.
And it could have been.
Yeah.
I mean, he did seem like a very, rich country man, so that can say a lot. The vibes I was getting.
Yeah, so after
yes,
that,
I do believe it was because Clay, and I don't know if it was because Clay was a white man or because he sympathized with him as far as family and everything he was saying. But yes, that is the only reason I think he gave them the medicine.
Yeah.
Reason, couldn't tell you.
Okay, so yeah, after he gets his medicine, they kind of like everybody just calms down, and they're sitting by Danny's porch. So Danny kind of tells George that another neighbor in like their neighborhood is probably equipped with like an underground bunker, and he's suggesting like the noise that he's hearing, the noises that they're hearing, like all the weird things that have been happening, like Archie's teeth falling out, the deers, the flamingos, like all of that is a result of a microwave weapon.
He also, you're talking about Danny, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because Danny also brought up the drone thing as well, but he said whoever he was talking to said the leaflets were another thing of racism. At first he was like, it was the Koreans. I was like, oh my God. And then he's like, or it could have been the Chinese. He didn't know. I was like, is this movie almost over?
Right.
Like,
but the one good thing is I kind of felt a little bit better after he said that, because I'm like, okay, this is not Islamophobic. But at the same time, they're trying to highlight countries.
Still racist.
Right. They're trying to highlight it. I think they also mentioned the Russians, too, at some point. He's like, it could be Russian, could be Chinese, could be Asian, whatever. And it's like...
But even with Korea, he didn't specify it was North Korea. He just said Korea.
Right. And so... Yeah, so basically he's just saying, like, this could be one of those things.
That's why he kept saying, like, it could have been a war, and they're like, because you're right, these are the prominent countries that aren't, like, allies with the U.S. and many others for reasons you're not gonna get into it, but thinking we would like end up in like a World War III, and they're tired of our shit, so they're decided to come on like American soil.
Yeah, and he's like, we've made a few enemies along the way, and they probably teamed up to take us down.
That's what I said. I said to my TV, a few?
Yeah.
How many's a few?
But yeah, so that's what ends up happening. So George and Clay, they finish saying whatever they do, get back in the car, and then they go back home. But on the way there, they have a conversation. So throughout this whole thing, so George, remember how I said he has like this really super important job? So he's friends with people in like really high levels of government. And so one of his acquaintances that he works for was going on vacation, and he said something to him, but he had like this look of remorse. And so like George is thinking back to like all the conversations he's had with him, and now it's like finally starting to click like what the situation actually is. And so more specifically, it's in defense contracting, right? And so he got to study like the different defense strategies, and one of the strategies that they talked about was a 3-stage maneuver. Yeah, a 3-stage maneuver that can topple a government from within. So that's like the whole premise of the story, is like how to get...
Yeah, was that the name of it? They couldn't come up with a better name. It was 3-stage maneuver.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so essentially that's what is actually happening. So he explains this to Clay, and he explained that this actually happens in 3 steps. So the first step is that they make sure everyone and everything is isolated. So they cut communications, they cut transportation, they make targets, like they're trying to make their targets deaf, dumb, and in a way blind, because they have no access to any sort of information from anywhere. So once they successfully are able to do that, that sets them up for stage 2, which is synchronized chaos. So that's where we see the flamingos, the deer, the self-driving Teslas.
Well, no, I think that synchronized chaos is the Teslas. It was also the noise.
Yeah,
they can't control the animals, but because the animals are so synced with the earth, and they have that sense of things are in danger and their migration's off because the ecosystem's out of whack. That is the only reason why they're showing up in places they shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. So it's not like the governments or anything actually have control of the animals. It's just because they're going off of their instinct is out of whack.
Right.
Essentially. That's why you're seeing all the deer, like all of them gathered like that, which I think they gather anyway, but not in like huge groups of like 20 to 30 like they did at the shed, or like the flamingos in New York, when I think they're only native to the south of North America. I mean, there's flamingos in Florida. I don't know where else flamingos go.
But yeah, so that step 1 sets up for step 2, which is what we said, synchronized chaos. So essentially it's like to terrorize them with like covert attacks, like we said, and misinformation. So that's where the pamphlets and everything come from.
Yeah.
So the whole point is to like overwhelm everybody to the point where like...
make you paranoid.
Yeah, to make you paranoid. Which kind of like weakens the defense capabilities, so that way other militaries and extremists can come in and take over, because without any clear enemy or motive, the goal here is for people to turn on each other, which we saw, right, between the neighbor and George. And if that is done successfully, that allows for step 3 to happen, which
is basically Armageddon.
Which George was freaked out about, because they're like, oh, how's that going to happen? He's like, oh, it's just going to happen on its own. And they call it the coup d'etat, which is a war.
Coup d'etat,
yeah. Which is a war or a collapse.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
And the reason why, so basically one person or one group starts it and they leave the rest for everybody else to finish.
Yeah, it's like a domino effect, basically.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but when he was explaining that literally sent chills down my arms, and I'm like, oh my God.
Why? Because we're witnessing it in real life?
Yes! And I'm like, oh my gosh, and we are still like not waking up. Like, what is this?
Listen. But yeah, there's that. And then I think after his explanation, because we had missed the part where like George and Ruth so nothing like not nothing bad happened to them, but to make sure they come back, they had set their phones for like a 1 hour timer. And when the timer went off, that was when George was supposed to be back at the house. So after he's done explaining that, the timer goes off. So they head back to the house. And at the same time, Ruth and Amanda are still in the forest. And I guess I didn't realize they were that close to the city, but they can see the city from where they're standing.
Literally burning down.
Stage 3 basically already started. Mm-hmm. So everyone has gotten to the point of turning on each other and blowing shit up. And you hear screams and you see helicopters. So yeah. Doomsday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so meanwhile, while they were talking about all that, Ruth and
I basically said that.
and Julia Roberts, they are looking for Rosie.
I already explained it for you.
So they see the house, but they head in that direction. But like while all of that was happening, there were still bombs and stuff. Yeah, New York City was actively being bombed. Anyway, so we cut to Rosie now. We actually see where she's going. So she's headed towards the house that they saw from the shed. And she is actually like in the house eating their food and candy. And at that point, I was like, what is she doing?
Because I forgot the name of the people that own the house, but it's the house that Danny was talking about that he helped them build the bunker for.
Yeah.
Which I was also sitting there like, well, so if they went through all this preparation to build this bunker, where are they?
Right. I was like, where are they?
Where are they at? You prepare for Doomsday, you're not even here for Doomsday?
I don't know. They probably had a bigger and better bunker somewhere else.
I don't know.
Yeah. So anywho, she's eating their food and candy. She hears her mom calling out to her. So she's on her way to her mom, but she notices something in the hallway. So she goes in that direction instead. So she sees a really interesting door. And she finds the bunker when she opens it. Naturally, as any curious 13-year-old would, she goes down just to see what's in it. But surprisingly, it's actually a really nice setup. So it has like food, it has bed, it has water, and it has like computers monitoring like everything that's happening, like live updates and everything.
Electricity. I think it also had fish tanks in there.
Yeah, possibly.
Maybe to grow their own food or something. I don't know. I didn't understand the meaning of the fish tanks, but
yeah. So yeah, it had like everything you could possibly need. So when Danny was like, oh yeah, they have a bunker for survival, they would have been good for like a good month or a year or so if they use, ration properly. So yeah, set up everything was really nice. But what really intrigued her was like this whole wall of like DVDs. And so she saw a bunch of different things. And I don't know, she just had the idea of like, oh, let me see if I can find the final season of Friends, because she's been trying to watch that this whole entire time and she just could not. Eventually finds it, watches the final seasons of Friends, and the movie ends up with her picking up an episode called The Last One, and it cuts out to the Friends theme song.
Yeah.
And that is that.
I'm just trying to figure out why they ended it like that, but okay. I guess.
Yeah. What a roller coaster that was.
And it wasn't a fun one either, I'm just going to be honest.
I think it was an interesting take on like political power, I would say.
I guess, because we don't even know who set off Doomsday.
Yeah.
Do we know?
Yeah, we don't know anything.
Because from what he was saying, from what George was saying, it seemed like an inside job.
It made it seem like that. It also made it seem like his, defense contractor friends knew what was going to happen. Or like they knew who actually did it. So they prepared in advance and they like left. So I don't know.
Yeah, I just feel like, and it was also like so open-ended, which I used to like movies like that. But then at the same time, like I'm like,
if I had known this movie was like that, I would not have watched it.
I used to be like, oh, it's mysterious. It's like, leave it up for your interpretation. But now I'm just like, is it just because you couldn't finish the script or something? I don't know. But then at the same time, especially with this movie, I guess it is an open ending because it's like supposed to reflect real life, which I don't understand, or I don't feel comfortable with that, especially with, again, everything that's going on. So it's like,
yeah,
I almost feel like a mockery in some way, or like this can happen to us if we don't do something, but like we do have the power to do something. I don't know. That's why I was just left confused, because if it was supposed to teach me a lesson, it was the wrong lesson, or it's like, oh, so you do have more power and you just don't want to use it. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm looking up like what the deers could possibly symbolize. And it says, like, you know how you were saying how, like, the deers are closely in connection with the earth? So essentially, the more deers we saw, that was kind of like a message saying that, like, okay, something is out of order, something is wrong, that type of thing.
Yeah. I figured that.
Yeah.
Because, like, they didn't seem like they were that scared of them when they were screaming at them.
Yeah.
They were kind of just looking at them like, okay.
Yeah.
We're just trying to warn you, but sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so what are your thoughts? I mean, you've been saying it throughout the whole thing.
I was
but...
gonna say, I think I pretty much already said my whole thoughts. Yeah, it was just an interesting movie. A little uncomfortable because, again, it just made me think of shit that's happening in real life. And it's not like I didn't like it because it made me think of real life.
How do you think we would respond, though, if this would happen in real life?
The exact same way.
Yeah?
Yeah. I have no hope.
Yeah.
Not to try to sound like that, but with the way things are going.
I don't know, possibly. I guess with me, though, I kind of had more of an expectation of something like dramatic happening, but nothing dramatic happened. It was like under your skin, subtle disturbances. You know what I mean?
But I feel like if that ever happened in real life, it'd probably be like that too. So I could see it happening just like that realistically.
Yeah. And I think what made this like kind of all come together, honestly, was like the background music, the eeriness of it.
Yeah.
It really, really did help with that. Otherwise, they would have just looked really stupid standing around for a lot of the scenes.
But again, I could see it as like a real life thing. So I feel like that's how we react in real life. And everyone's situation would be different because they're lucky enough to be able to stay in like a nice enough house like that. I don't know about their food situation. It didn't seem like there wasn't any time they were complaining about food, so it seemed like they were fine with that, but and not everyone's, that lucky.
Yeah.
Or have the resources like that, especially to build a whole secret bunker, which also makes me terrified of real life because of those reports of what's his face that owns Facebook apparently building a bunker down in Hawaii.
Who is?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you haven't heard that? Apparently he's building a whole ass like basically apocalyptic bunker in Hawaii.
Wow.
Under his house. Yeah. So that should show us anything.
That's a warning, I guess. Was there anybody that you expected to actually die in the movie?
I mean, I'm glad it wasn't a stereotype, but George.
Yeah?
Yeah, I thought they were going to be like, oh, kill the black person.
I was expecting the daughter to die, honestly. Because she was just, like, randomly exploring things. I'm like, she's gonna die any second.
Yeah, but it's like how I had called her the odd child earlier. It's usually the ones that are, like, they'll say stuff creepy where they usually tend to survive. So I wasn't too worried about her. Or even maybe Clay. But yeah, I thought they were going to pull one of those and kill the black guy.
Well, thankfully they didn't.
We always die first in movies.
Yeah. I didn't know what to think of Julia Roberts' acting. Like, I think she did a good job because, like, her character seriously pissed me off. But it's just, like, it was uncomfortable watching her perform.
I actually think they all did a fantastic job acting.
Yeah.
I will say it was one of those movies I watched where I can tell the actors were going off the script that they were given. Mm-hmm. So they did the best they could with the material. Like the last season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Because they say, like, if someone's playing, like, a negative character and you actually dislike their character, then that means they did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, the only thing that I guess really bothered me is, like, we don't really know what the ending is, and I don't think they're making a second movie for it, so it's, like, just like that.
Because I don't think there's another book to this, is there?
Probably not. But what kind of was, like, annoying was the whole friend situation. Like, why Friends?
That's what I was wondering, too. Out of all the shows, Friends, I mean, rip Matthew Perry, but...
Yeah.
I just never understood the hype.
I mean, here it's saying the reason why Friends was, like, a common theme was for it to be, like, a reliable source of comfort and escape from reality, I guess. Which is what media is supposed to do during times of chaos, but I don't think that's what ended up happening here.
But Friends, out of all the shows, and for a 13-year-old, that's why I was like, what was Friends rated when it was showing? Was it rated PG?
I don't know.
But then again, you have to remember, like, PG rating back then was a lot different than PG rating now, because, like, they were playing Shrek on TV the other day, and, like, it's rated PG, but then towards the end, there's a scene where they said ass a couple times. I was like, why do I not remember this as a child? Like, I think Shrek calls Donkey a jackass and they say something else. I don't know if he calls him an asshole or something. I'm like, wasn't this PG?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
My little tiny brain must have not remembered this.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, over time, like, the rating system has definitely changed because the way teenagers and young children consume media is also very different. So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Because we were on that generation where, like, it was still very new, but they grew up on, like, iPads and social media, stuff like that. So it's very different.
They're far more exposed than they need to be.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I wanted to say about this movie. I mean, I feel like I've already said everything when we were explaining it.
Yeah.
I don't think it should have been almost 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it could have been shorter. It could have been shorter.
Maybe that would have made it feel like it was so long or like the pacing was off. But again, I guess they're just trying to show how it would be like in real life, which, I mean, it may seem like it's dragging, but I don't know. For some reason, it seems like for me, time is going by a lot faster. So,
yeah. Possibly.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say. Again, I think it was just disturbing because, yeah, I just see a lot of problems and ways it could have been prevented that's like happening in real life, yet we're just too greedy to actually put those plans in action.
Yeah.
Because, like, does money really mean anything if we're in apocalyptic times? And also, I was also confused because for a long time, I thought it was aliens. I'd rather have taken aliens.
Really?
Yes, because speaking of aliens, where are they? Like, please, stop playing with me. Come get me. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I will take the sugar cubes from IU's new music video over anything. So, do you have any final thoughts?
Nope.
Any ratings?
All right. Before we go, let's do a final rating. What would you give it?
I have to give it a 5.
Really?
Yeah, there's too many things that piss me off. Again, I understand it, but at the same time, I'll give it a 5.5.
I'm so generous of you.
I would have been fine if I never watched it. That's the thing, I guess. It pissed me off more than I feel like it really taught me a lesson. I don't know if it was supposed to teach me anything, but
I would give it a 7.
A 7? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I would give it a 7. I didn't like how it was open-ended. I didn't like how it alluded to possible Islamophobic, Eastern country-phobic agendas.
Yeah.
Did not like that.
I didn't like the very heavy microaggression, almost basically racism at the beginning too. But it's like, I guess during times of panic, people turn to that. But then again, what does that say about us as humans and a human race? You know what? Let's go ahead and end it before I keep going. So yeah, that's my rating, a 5.5. I could have kept it. It terrifies me of what's happening. Sorry, it's not more positive.
Hey, but it is what it is. What you
humans do better. That's all I have to say. Yeah. Humans and governments do better. Mostly governments, actually. Because a lot of us are just trying to survive.
All right, so that is the end of our review, I guess.
Yeah. Let us know what you thought of it and if you thought it was as trash as I did. Oh, am I doing the close? Are you doing the close?
Oh, no, I can do the closing.
Okay.
All right, so
we're just like staring at each other.
Thank you so much for tuning in. You can always catch us on our socials. I was thinking pod on Instagram, TikTok too, right?
TikTok and Twitter.
Please let us know how we're doing. Please give us a 5-star rating if you think we're doing okay. But other than that, we will catch you in the next episode. Please take care of yourself. Oh, yes, email. If you would like to send us an email, you can do so at iwasthinkingpod@gmail.com. But yeah, take care of yourself and we will catch you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye, guys.